he's great, and this is a guy who can have a great match with anybody, and he's always going to deliver. But that's it. That's all they think about me. That's a it's positive, right? I appreciate that. I appreciate that a company thinks that I can have a great match with anyone, but my goal is not to have great matches with people. My goal is to be the best professional wrestler on this planet, and MLW is consistently giving me the opportunity to prove that.
Oh, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3, back once again for an exclusive interview for The Takedown on Sports Illustrated. This time we are talking to the number one contender for the Major League Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship, facing Matt Riddle coming up on May 10th, the one and only Donovan Dijak. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am doing splendid. Glad to talk to you again. Told you before we talked last year. So we're talking on the heels of you getting a big opportunity going for the top prize in Major League Wrestling in about just over a week's time.
Yep.
So how are you feeling going into that big matchup?
Ready, prepared. I've been sort of mentally preparing myself for the role of the leader of MLW, the top guy in MLW for almost a year now, and I think it's a great time to sort of rightfully take my place on that throne. Um, Not to take away from Matt Riddle, he's a great talent, and I've wrestled him many times, but this is the era of Donovan Dijak, and I'm going to prove that I'm the disruptor. I'm going to continue to disrupt MLW. I'm going to continue to lead MLW because that's my job. That's why I was put on this earth as the best professional wrestler on this earth. I belong at the peak of MLW, and I'm going to prove that next Saturday. What day is today? Today's
Yeah, Friday.
I'm just for context, I'm in Mexico right now. So
Yeah.
I flew down here and I don't know if we'll talk about that or not, but yeah, so my brain's a little disoriented. I was in Orlando all week with my family, visiting Walt Disney World. So I'm not exactly
Nice.
sure what day it is, but May 10th in Chicago for sure. It's going to happen.
Well, talking about that, I was gonna ask, like, were you in Mexico already? Because I know you have the big weekend,
Mhm.
CMLL versus MLW. You got a tag team matchup on the Friday. You got six-man tag team matching over the weekend. How different is it performing in Mexico to saying all the different places that you've performed in, like the United States and all around the world?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm going to find out today. Tonight is my first match in Mexico ever. So I guess
Oh,
we'll see. At the end of the day, I know this. I know that I'm going to be the biggest man in the ring. I know that I'm going to be one of, if not the most experienced men in the ring, certainly in some of the matches. There's some veterans in a variety of the matches that I'm in. But yeah, it doesn't change. A professional wrestling ring is a professional wrestling ring. Fans are fans, and I'm going to treat it as such. I know that I'm the best professional wrestler in the world, regardless of country, regardless of situation. I've proved that all across Europe. I've proved that in India. I've proved that all across North America, now in Mexico. So I'm going to continue to prove it in Mexico, and I'm going to continue to prove MLW's dominance.
has Arena Mexico been a place that's kind of been on your bucket list to perform in because it has this like legacy of being one of the greatest wrestling, arenas to work in?
Absolutely. I mean, my goal whenever I visit a new country for pro wrestling is to wrestle for the best, right? The best uh, promotion in that country, the biggest promotion in that country, the biggest stages. And I've been fortunate that I've been able to do that very often throughout my career. And today's no different. Arena Mexico is something that's been on my radar for a very long time. A lot of the greats throughout the history of professional wrestling have performed in this arena, and I'm going to be one of those greats as well, and I'm going to prove that tonight. And we're going to take home the win for MLW, and that's the goal, that's the prize, and that's what's going to happen.
And going back to this matchup with Riddle, like you said before, you guys have faced multiple different times, and this rivalry that you've had in MLW seems to be like the most intense that it's gotten between you guys. The matchup back in December in New York City, going to a DQ finish, your whole relationship with Saint Laurent, which has really kind of drived home this bitterness in this rivalry between the two, and then you broke his ribs back in Los Angeles at Battle Riot. So what makes it different from all the other times that you have faced Matt Riddle in PWG and Beyond Wrestling in comparison to what's going on right now between you guys in Major League Wrestling?
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that long history that me and Matt have. I think dating back to what, 2015 or 16. So yeah, we're coming up on 10 years. And I'm hard pressed to think of a year in that decade where we didn't wrestle each other for some brand of some company. You know, for a very long time, he and I were what we call married on the road. Not in the positive way, like as a tag team, but in the negative way, as though we were facing each other every single night for NXT when we were doing those touring house shows. So yeah, I'd guess that me and Matt have probably faced each other. If I had to guess, I'd guess that he and I have probably wrestled each other. He might be the person that I've wrestled the most. It's either him or Keith Lee, I think, in terms of who I've wrestled the most. Probably somewhere around 30 to 50 matches, if I had to guess. So yeah, it's a long storied history. But yeah, this feud in MLW is taking it to a whole new level. Like you mentioned, the breaking of the ribs, the instructions by Saint Laurent. You know, it's all adding to the story. His partnership with Filthy Tom Lawler. I mean, all of that is coming to a head, and I think it's going to culminate with me holding the biggest, literally and figuratively, the biggest championship in all of professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's been quite the ride that you guys have been on within everything that you guys have been doing in MLW. And kind of going back to that whole relationship that you had with Saint Laurent, how did that come to fruition coming into MLW and connecting with kind of one of the big pieces of the pie when it comes to MLW over the last couple of years, with Saint Laurent being manager of champions and stars in throughout MLW for the last couple of years?
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point in my career, I just turned 38 years old, and like I mentioned, I spent all week in Disney World, and that's not cheap. So number one on the list is money. You know, Saint Laurent's a money guy, and money talks, and he knows that, and I know that. So that is the number one piece of the puzzle. But after we sort of established the money piece of it, the trust began to build, and the trust has been building. His leadership has taken me into a direction where my success has been paramount, and I'm going to continue to follow him as long as it continues to drive me towards more financial gain, more championship gain, and more success in the professional wrestling ring. And that's all I've been experiencing under Saint Laurent. So our relationship has really sort of blossomed under those principles.
And another person that you've connected with more recently at Battle Riot, who joined you in that beatdown where you broke Matt Riddle's ribs, was Bishop Dyer, who made his
Yes.
debut in MLW at Battle Riot. So, kind of explain like your relationships, because I know you guys did work in WWE at the same time, but how did you guys kind of connect in MLW together, and what's your history there?
Yeah, so the relationship is new, obviously. You know, he has a lot of those same principles with Saint Laurent that I have. So I think we share some common ground there. Obviously, we share a past and a present as well. We're both in a very similar situation in terms of our career path. He's obviously accomplished more on bigger stages than I have. But you know, we sort of ended on a similar note in WWE, and I think that we both draw comparisons because of those similarities, and also because of our nationalities and our similar height and our similar style, and there's so much there to dive into, and I think I'm very much looking forward to exploring that sort of dynamic between he and I. I think that's sort of an untapped reservoir of potential in terms of two of the biggest men in all of professional wrestling. If you look throughout the scene, not just MLW, yeah, because MLW has some big guys between um, Mads Cruel Cougar and the list goes. Baba Thunders in MLW. So there's no question in my mind that we have the like literally the largest roster in all of professional wrestling. That's not even debatable. But in terms of myself and Bishop Dyer, I think that cohesive unit that right away makes a formidable sort of stable and tag team that's going to be a complete force throughout all of professional wrestling.
Yeah, I guess the commentary team even called y'all like the skyscrapers, and I haven't heard that term in a couple of years. So, is
Right.
there a future for you guys in the tag team division in MLW as well?
No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Again, I don't know exactly what the future holds for me. I know that first and foremost is winning and becoming the MLW World Heavyweight Champion. But listen, I'm more than happy to have a collection of MLW belts at my disposal. So after I collect that from Matt Riddle, then it's on to the tag team championships with Bishop Dyer, and we're just going to take over the entire company because we're so big that nobody's going to stop us. He has a very legitimate background. I have a very legitimate background. So with our size and our strength and our minds and the leadership of Saint Laurent, there's literally the sky is the limit, pun intended.
So, the first time I talked to you last year, I told you I've been like following your career since the very beginning of your time in Ring of Honor back in like the 2010s into what you've done in Evolve and PWG and all the independent scenes into what you've did in WWE NXT onto the main roster and went through all of that. But since September, you've been a mainstay for MLW and Major League Wrestling. What's different about MLW in comparison to all those other promotions that you've been with?
Just the ability to rebrand myself. I think every promotion in the world knows that I'm one of the best professional wrestlers in the world. But MLW is the first promotion that I feel deep down in my soul believes that I am the best professional wrestler in the world, and that means a lot to me because that's what I believe, right? And if a promotion doesn't believe that about me, if they think, oh, that he's great and this is a guy who can have a great match with anybody and he's always going to deliver, but that's it, that's all they think about me. That's a it's positive, right? I appreciate that. I appreciate that a company thinks that I can have a great match with anyone, but my goal is not to have great matches with people. My goal is to be the best professional wrestler on this planet, and MLW is consistently giving me the opportunity to prove that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the reins. I'm going to score the touchdown. All the figurative speeches that I can possibly give is what I'm going to do in MLW because they believe in me, so I believe in them.
I like that. That's a great mindset to be at. So, what's going to be different about MLW once because we're going to root for you here at the Takedown on that side. Once you win the MLW World Heavyweight Championship, what's going to be the different chapter that you bring to MLW as the top champion in the company?
I've already spoken to Court Bauer about this. It's going to be consistent groundbreaking performances, uh, promos, appearances. Everything that I do is going to rattle the cages. That's all I've learned over the course of my 13 years in professional wrestling is that you don't accomplish anything by doing what everybody expects. So I'm going to continue to achieve what's unexpected. I'm going to continue to have the greatest matches in MLW history, the greatest matches across the pro wrestling landscape, because this is what I've been doing, right? If you watch my work in NXT, that's what I did. I was almost never on the winning end. Now I'm going to be on the winning end of those matches. So you're going to see more consistency. You're going to see more title defenses. You're going to see it every single week instead of the sporadic, oh, once or twice a year here's Dijak having match of the year contenders, right? Or in NXT's case, the match of the year. I'm going to have that consistently across the landscape of professional wrestling and specifically for that MLW championship and those MLW tag team championships. It's going to be just a plethora of outstanding performances because that's what I know I can consistently bring to the table on a worldwide scale.
So the first time I talked to you was literally like 1 month after your departure from WWE. Kind of reflecting on that now that we're just a month away to like the anniversary of that post that you put out on social media that kind of rocked the wrestling world, where you announced your departure from WWE. How
Mhm.
can you kind of reflect back on the past 12 months for yourself and where you're at in your career in comparison to where you were at when you first made that post?
It's a rebuilding process. It's a rebuilding process and a rebranding process, and we are right in the thick of things. Like I mentioned, I've traveled across the world. I've had some of the busiest weeks, not some of, I've had the busiest weeks of my entire professional wrestling career. I've wrestled 8 matches in 10 days. I've done many things at this point in my career that I've not done throughout the rest of my career. And now is the time to take a further step in that approach, in that rebranding process, becoming a world champion, defending that world championship, becoming a specific household brand name, and making my claim as the best professional wrestler on this planet. I'm not just going to continue to say it, I'm going to continue to prove it, right? That's all I've ever done when I'm in the ring, when I'm on the microphone. It's all I've ever done. That's what I'm going to continue to do. But now the spotlight is on me. So now people can focus and understand what's happening.
And I just love the fact that you are open. You want to elevate everything in wrestling. Like the people that you've worked with in the past, I've seen you still are supporting them. Like I was in the UK last summer, and I'm here now. But I was in the UK last summer, and one of the first shows I went to was Rev Pro, where you went against Robbie X. And I still see you to this day reposting when Robbie X is in the Best of Super Juniors tournament. And then the different people that you work on the independent scene, you're always propping them up and like sharing their posts and everything. So what's the kind of quality in you that makes you want to like put over and like elevate the other people that you work with that you are become a fan of?
It's the same principle that I live by. Everything is reciprocal in life, but it's magnified in this business, right? Everything we do is dependent on other people, and I'm not just going to forget that. This is a thing that I see happen all the time in professional wrestling. Is people just forget, right? They do something and something happens, and then they move on to the next thing, and they forget what someone did for them or who someone was that gave them that chance or things like that. I'm never going to forget those things. I remember every match I've ever been in. I remember every person who ever gave me advice. I remember everything. But you can ask my wife. I have a terrible memory. I can't remember anything in terms of my real life and like what I had for breakfast. But in terms of professional wrestling, I'm an elephant man. I don't forget anything, and I use that to my advantage, whether it's to give people a share or a platform that they might not have had otherwise, or to give them a boost, or to just say something positive about their work, or to raise money for a charity or whatever it is. I'm never going to look past that opportunity. All of this is a gift to me, and I appreciate that gift. It's a gift that I've worked extremely hard to get to. But that being said, there's a lot of different factors that go into professional wrestling. And right now, I'm in a position where I can help people in different aspects of professional wrestling, and also help myself in terms of my rebranding and my rise in the world of professional wrestling. So I feel like it's always going to be that way. I can't change who I am as a person. It's going to continue to trend in that direction, and that's just the way that I feel comfortable doing this.
So to follow up on that question, who are the people that you like watching the most in the professional wrestling world, whether it be in MLW or anywhere else that you've been or anyone else that you've been able to compete against?
The people that I watch the most in professional wrestling are my best friends in the world of professional wrestling. I watch MXM on AEW and Ring of Honor all the time. Um, I watch Shane Haste in New Japan, and he was just on TNA. Um, Big Damo is the OTT champion. He has a big match and a big defense coming up in. I don't want to get the town wrong. I think it's in Ireland somewhere. Belfast, maybe. I'm not sure, but I know he has a big defense coming up. I'm going to watch that one. Yeah, I mean these are the people who've supported me the most throughout my professional wrestling career, so I support them the most. And we're not friends by accident. I'm friends with some of the other best professional wrestlers on the planet, and the proof is always going to be in the pudding of that. I mean, these are multiple time champions. These are people who've been with all the biggest companies in the world. So I don't just say, oh, they're my friends and that's it. I'm very critical of the people that I'm close with. Anthony Green as well, who's a former Pro Wrestling Noah tag team champion. So I've watched a boatload of his matches recently. I mean, these are people who I genuinely feel are the best professional wrestlers on the planet. And I'm someone who watches a lot of professional wrestling, so I can very much determine the difference between booking and performance. And
Yeah.
booking is not the work of the performer. So I don't judge that. I don't critique that. I judge performance. And when I'm talking about exclusively performance, now we're talking about the best professional wrestlers on the planet.
Love that. And going off of that, the one thing that you've been doing is paying it forward with DijakWrestling.com and teaching people through interactive classes. I've seen you in rings working with other people as well. So, kind of explain what was the reason that you wanted to make like this kind of paying forward and helping out the people that are younger than you and just getting started out in the business, or even those who have been in the business for a while? What made you kind of start DijakWrestling.com?
So the Dijak Wrestling Academy is a concept that I had, kind of based on my acting classes actually that I did with Howard Fine, who's one of the best acting coaches in the world. And after COVID hit, he adopted a formula of online classes, and I saw that as a wonderful opportunity for me because I can't, be in LA all the time.
Yeah.
um, I live in New England, so that's a bit of a commute. So I took full advantage of that. I took all of his online classes, and I thought, wow, what a wonderful parallel acting is to professional wrestling. And you would think that that parallel is between acting and promos, and it's actually not. Promos have very little to do with acting. The actual acting of professional wrestling comes much more in the ring. That's where a lot of the parallels take place, and you wouldn't think that that's the case because there's obviously these elements of physicality, but in terms of the psychology and the principles behind the psychology, there's actually a ton of parallels. So I thought that that was a wonderfully sort of unexplored area in the world of teaching and learning professional wrestling, because everybody thinks, right? We all think that, oh, I'm going to learn to be a professional wrestler, so I need to learn how to bump, I need to learn how to hit the ropes, and I need to learn how to jump off the top rope and all this stuff. And we just think of the physicality, which is true. Yes, the physicality is something that you need to learn. But the reality of the physicality of professional wrestling is a lot of that is fairly basic, and there's a lot of people who can teach that. Like, I know a ton of people who can teach someone how to bump or how to hit the ropes. That's just kind of a logistics thing. In terms of the psychology, now we're talking about a more rare sort of air. Now we're talking about stuff I learned from Shawn Michaels and stuff I learned from Randy Orton and Triple H and The Undertaker, and the list goes on and on and on, right? But in terms of those pieces of psychology, that's the things that I want to be able to discuss, and I want to be able to discuss them not just at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, where I am a trainer and I teach the in ring and the psychology at the same time, but also on the Dijak Wrestling Academy website, where I can talk to people just like this, just like you, and I can explain my thoughts behind psychology and my thoughts behind different structures of professional wrestling and things like that, and go really into depth on the thought process and the terminology and things like that. And the reality of professional wrestling is it's all subjective, right? So these are just my ideas and my thoughts, and I make that very clear to all my students, but they're super receptive to all of it. Our first session wrapped up about a month ago. We have another session coming up in, I think, probably 10 or 15 days, starting on May 13th and May 15th. The spots are filling up. I just had another sign up yesterday, so it's going really well. I've sort of made the times so they're applicable to both European and uh, North American time
Yeah.
structures. So it's not horribly in the middle of the night unless you're in Australia. Um, but even then, I think there's probably a morning option or something. But regardless of that, yeah, check it out, dijakwrestling.com. If you have any questions about it, you can hit me up personally at dijakwrestling@gmail.com. I mean, I answer all of those emails personally, and we can set up a one-on-one consultation or anything if anybody's interested. I'm very hands-on. I'm extremely hands-on. I'm extremely responsive, especially when it comes to that stuff, because I'm very passionate about teaching and learning professional wrestling. So yeah, check out dijakwrestling.com for more info.
So this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out and talking to me today. So please let everybody know where they can follow you on social media, and of course where they can check you out going up against Matt Riddle for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship Saturday, May 10th in Chicago. Let the people know.
Yeah, all my social media handles are at Dijak FYE. FYE stands for Feast Your Eyes. Um, every single platform I'm on is that it's at Dijak FYE. Again, the Dijak Wrestling Academy is now enrolling for a couple weeks. It's dijakwrestling.com, and you can join right there through the website. And then you can check out me and Matt Riddle. You can watch me defeat Matt Riddle for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship next Saturday on YouTube. Everything we do is live on YouTube. You can watch it live for free on YouTube. Just check out the MLW YouTube page, and it'll be live right there next Saturday night. So check it out.
This has been an awesome conversation. I want to thank you, Donovan Dijak, so much for your time. And like I said before, the takedown on SI is rooting for you against Matt Riddle next Saturday, May 10th. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been the takedown on SI with Donovan Dijak, signing off until next time.